Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to continue in our studies in Luke's Gospel, and we've reached chapter 19, which from verses 1 to 10 are the story of Zacchaeus. I'm not going to read it to you right now because I'm struggling a little bit with the technology this week, hence the kind of lo-fi recording, but I'd ask you to read it. So Luke chapter 19 from verses 1 to 10, and you can get that in Bible Gateway if you don't have a Bible with you. The story of Zacchaeus is another famous story. There are Sunday school songs about him which talk about this little man in a tree who can't see over the crowd and wants to see Jesus, and when Jesus comes by he stops and he knows Zacchaeus and he says to him, "Let's go, I'm coming to your house for dinner tonight." But there's more to Zacchaeus than that. He was a tax collector, and I'm not sure if we get the full picture of the man in the Sunday school tales. Because in order to be a tax collector, you had to be a pretty rough person. If he wasn't able to deal with people himself, he probably had hired hands that were pretty physical in order to make sure that they got paid. So really, rather than this small guy that can't see out of the tree or over the crowd, we're talking about someone who was probably a gangster, probably quite an unpleasant person, probably quite a scary person. But he does want to see Jesus, and he does have to climb the tree to see him. So it's all the more amazing that Jesus then stops, knows who he is, and says, "I'm coming to yours tonight." And maybe because Zacchaeus probably was some kind of gangster, some kind of violent person, or someone who certainly used authority and violence to get money off of people. They were notorious for actually skimming as well, these people, that they bought the opportunity to collect the taxes for the Romans, and then they could take whatever else they wanted once they'd sorted out the taxes for Rome. So it really is incredible that this is who Jesus wants to spend time with. And it's maybe not surprising that everybody in the crowd and all the people that know Zacchaeus can't believe that this religious teacher, this rabbi, would want anything to do with him, because he's the complete opposite of what good religious people should be. It's easy to criticise the crowd in the Gospels. It's easy to think, well, I wouldn't have behaved like that. But would we? How would we react to someone who's like a well-known gangster, or someone who's got a really bad reputation, some kind of really scary individual turning up in our Sunday services? How would we feel about that? How welcome would that person be made? And if we knew that some church down the road was entertaining folk like that, we might be intrigued. We might on surface level know that that's, it's important that everyone hears the gospel, but I wonder how we'd really feel deep down if that kind of person was welcome in church. But that's exactly the kind of person that Jesus was willing to spend time with and was criticised for. In church, we often deal with the victims of certain circumstances, and we kind of know how to deal with people who are victims. But how do we deal with people who are perpetrators? How do we deal with the people who are dishing out violence, or the people who are dealing the drugs? I mean, it's really interesting that this is who Jesus wants to spend time with. Now, perhaps Zacchaeus was already having a change of heart. Perhaps he was already beginning to want to follow God. We don't know. Or was it simply that the Lord stopped and made time for him that transformed him? But for whatever reason, there was grace for Zacchaeus. Even though what he did was wrong, there was grace for him. And when he's met with that grace, he is changed. This gives us hope that anybody can be saved. Not because of anything in them, not because anything that they do, not because they're great people. Anyone can be saved because of the incredible grace of Jesus Christ. That his death on the cross can cover anyone's sins, no matter how concerning. That's not to say that what people do is okay. That's not to say that the people who are the perpetrators rather than the victims are righteous for what they've done. Of course not. But the grace of Jesus, the forgiveness of God, can even cover the worst that we can think of sinners. That is kind of hard to get your mind around and your heart around. We like the fact that God forgives us, but most of us tend to think of ourselves as not that bad. But what about the people who we think are really bad? Can we understand, or can we handle the idea that God might forgive them somehow? How do we do it? How do we recognise that radical forgiveness of Jesus Christ? How do we offer that welcome of Jesus, recognising that even the worst sinners can be forgiven because we were forgiven? How do we do it sensibly? You know, if someone's big problem was stealing chocolate, you might not put them on the coffee rota or working in the kitchen, but how do we recognise the welcome and the forgiveness that Jesus offers to all who are willing to receive it? And can we recognise too that we might think that we're disqualified from forgiveness, and yet the blood of Christ can cover every sin, which is amazing. Can we believe that today? Can we learn how to live it out, as difficult as that might be, as challenging as that might be? Or would we remain the people who are on the sidelines watching Jesus feasting with Zacchaeus and saying, what's he doing? Doesn't he know what a terrible person Zacchaeus is? He'll never change. What if God says anyone can change with his grace? Amen.